Karen Bonafilio, Outer Realms, Inner Journeys. Chelsea's back in the house. I am so excited you are back in the house. I really am. It's been such a long time since we connected.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
I'm always happy to have you here. And I'm going to tell you, Chelsea and I are talking about doing a live in the near future. Oh, you know what, Chelsea? I know we're going to talk a little bit about numerology today.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe going live about numerology would be good too.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Chelsea before we start. If you don't know her, she's fabulous. You will love her. You really will. And she knows I'm not, I'm truthful. I'm being truthful. I'm telling the truth. I'm not BSing. So Chelsea is an evidential medium that has over 16 years of experience, probably 17 years, transforming lives, and her sessions are truly a healing and unforgettable experience. I can tell you that's true. She embodies a compassionate and down-to-earth perspective that brings comfort and healing to every reading. Chelsea uses her unique gifts to connect with her clients' loved ones and offers clarity and guidance to those grieving from the loss. The information she validates is specific, non-leading, and uplifting in nature. So she's got a lot going on. Notice her little nickname, Jill of all trades. She is. But before, Chelsea, I want to ask you about numerology. But first, I want you to tell the little story that you told me before we got on about your last client that you were seeing and the message that you got.
Oh, so just before I spoke with you, I had a session with a client and I was working with her brother, and I started to get a name that was coming through, but it didn't connect to her or her family. And I was like, it's a BN name, whether that be Bonnie, Ben, I couldn't think of any other BN type names. Like, I'm just seeing those. And then I realized that because I've channeled your husband, Bono, that it was him who was just very early for our interview. And so, but he just popped in to say that you were a smoking hot mama. So a belated happy birthday. You're looking great kind of message. So there you go.
Isn't he sweet? He's just so sweet. Still from the other side. He's still contacting and such a sweet man.
He says, I prefer to call it flirting, not contacting. Other times he might have been contacting you. Today was very much a flirt.
He winked at me too.
He did.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Chelsea really connects well with spirit. And I think I've had 2 sessions with you, maybe 3. I don't know. I think Nadine's had way more than I have, and her friend. But anyway, so Chelsea, let's talk about numerology. What is numerology? Why is it so important? Why do we even care? I hate math.
Right. So fortunately for me, I'm a number nerd. So I've always been drawn to numbers. The irony is that I hadn't heard of numerology until probably about 10 to 11 years ago. And I had a reading with a woman who was amazing. She actually used to teach numerology at when Chemeketa Community College was still a trade school here in town. She used to teach numerology there. And I was bummed because I was like, I want to take a numerology class. Like what? And she said they used to have, when they were trade school, they used to have tons of like spiritual based classes. But then once they became a community college, there's accreditation issue and things like that. You can't, you have to follow certain rules for certain classes. So, but something that's kind of a secret, not secret, but kind of secret thing I'm working on is I'm in the process of setting up a school online. So that's kind of my homework assignment for next year is I would like to, by the end of the year, have my school program at least lined up or launched online. So trying to get there.
Is that for everyone or just for your students?
Everyone, for everyone who wants to. And I'm like, my goal is I want it to be a learning library that offers folks the opportunity to, if they want to learn how to properly sage their house, there's a video how to do that. If you want to know how to connect with your loved ones, I'm going to have classes, whether that be live mentorship or recorded classes. I want to be able to get them in as many modalities as I can to be able to help as many people as I can. So I know that's not the question that you asked about. I kind of went on a little tangent there.
I love tangents.
But there's there's such a large opportunity to educate people. And, I'll be the first to say I'm not a guru. I'm not the medium for everybody, right? I have friends who are mediums where they're not the medium for everybody, right? To me, finding a medium is no different than finding a therapist. There needs to be a good fit. You guys need to vibe together, right? But same thing, I feel like if you're going to learn about spirituality, learn from someone that you feel drawn to, that you feel like you have a good vibe or connection with. And so that's kind of why I feel really pulled to kind of expand more into teaching my classes that I teach online for people for a variety of spiritual topics. They always sell out real quick. I get a lot of good feedback. So it's definitely something that I'm heading in that direction for sure.
I don't like that they sell out real quick.
One of the things I'd like to teach.
Because I don't want to miss out.
Now, you won't miss out. You'll know, believe me.
Okay. Also, how to sage your house so I could be doing it wrong, incorrectly. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. So there's little tips and tricks and things like that. We
can talk for a couple minutes afterwards.
Yes, we can. Absolutely. But back to your question of numerology. So why does numerology matter? So a lot of people are maybe much more familiar with astrology, but then we hear numbers and they go, "Ooh, I don't do numbers, not into math," and then it kind of turns them away, right? Yep. Numerology, the best way for me to compare it is, if we look at astrology kind of gives you an idea based on your birthday of maybe certain tendencies towards your personality that you might have, right? Numerology does that, but there's also kind of an extra bonus side to numerology, and that's where you have debt. So like, what are you carrying forward from past lives? And then what do we do to work on that, right? It also lets you know, numerology reading can let you know how people see you, right? So your personality number, when I do a chart, that's how people see you. So it gives you the opportunity where, if let's say your personality number is a 1 and so you're like, well, I'm not bossy, but that's the thing is you may not be bossy, but people see you as someone who's confident, who's a leader, who may take charge, but also may be a little too direct or blunt, right? And so it's an opportunity for you to take that information and kind of make some changes. Like if you don't want to be seen that way, then maybe you're more cognizant of it. So being able to understand your life path. So you have, in a numerology chart, you have a life path number and you have your destiny. And your life path is kind of what I call kind of the soundtrack, the theme of your life. So people, for instance, who have like a 6 for their life path, they're going to be caretakers their whole life, whether that's they have a lot of sick family members or they have a lot of friends or that get sick and they're having to care for them, or maybe they go into nursing. So they're caring for people all day long in their career field. So there's all sorts of different numbers in your chart that basically tell you kind of, here's what to expect in your life. Here's some tragedies you're going to go through. Here's some experiences. Here's learning lessons. Here's karmic debt. So there's all sorts of benefits to numerology. And it's fascinating because if I do a chart for someone who I don't know, I've never met them before, I can literally look at their numbers and I can tell you this person's going to be an extrovert or an introvert. This person's going to be someone who takes life by the horns, and they're very confident, or they're very meek, or they're very shy, or they get walked on a lot, or take it. Like I can tell someone's personality just from their chart or how they're going to be. The other side of it is if I know the client, let's say, like I've met with them a couple times and then they want to have a numerology chart done, knowing a little bit about them, like maybe some of the tragedies they've experienced or some of the things, when I do their chart, I can go, that's why they had this karmic lesson here, which needed to teach them this lesson. So that's why they had to go through that horrible, where they lost their partner or lost their sibling or what have you. So it's interesting because then I get the perspective of, that's why these things had to happen, or this is where. So for me, it's fun doing a chart, whether I know the person or not, because it'll either answer a lot of questions for me or tell me a whole lot about them without me even knowing them. So it's really interesting how accurate it is. Mm-hmm. I've really, unless I do math wrong, I've never had anyone where they're like, that doesn't make sense, or that doesn't really align with me. I think the difference though, that I bring when I do a chart, because truly, my dear, you could go on a website as soon as this interview's over and you could Google all of your numbers and find out all of that. What I do that's different in a chart is I will pull up somebody's chart, put it together, but then I'll also channel their spirit guides and say, okay, have they learned this lesson? do they need to be aware that this is going to keep coming? So it's almost like a psychic reading and a numerology chart had like a little baby. And that's kind of what I present to folks when I do a chart for them.
Well, and I know you're spot on with your readings. You are. So I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel that before we come here, we decide upon the lessons that we're going to have and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though we know, I mean, we don't know when we come because we forget, but you can use a numerology to tie into that also.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because you look at your karmic debt. And so that's really going to hone in on, here's some big lessons you have to learn. Now, with that said, there can be charts where people don't have any karmic debt. It's rare. I don't do them very often. I would say probably 1 out of every 6 or so charts I do will have no karmic debt. So it's pretty rare. But when I encounter that, then I let people know it's not to say you're not going to learn lessons or you're not here. It just means you resolved a lot of debt in past lives. You just didn't have a ton to roll over. So that's a good thing.
Oh, good. I hope I've resolved a lot in this lifetime, as do everyone. We don't want to keep coming back to this.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I just have a question.
Sure.
How do you feel about parallel lives?
Oh, yes. So here's the thing. I've only recently started diving into that. I have a friend, so without calling them out, they've had some pretty wild experiences with where like, no, it's not a bit, I just don't know if they'd want to be called out. Not that I think that they would care, but I've had a friend where they've had some experiences, like for instance, so he used to have a neighbor that he would swap fruit with, and they would make each other like jams and jellies and, things like that. And so, and it's a very unique thing, like quince, right? Like nobody has quince trees growing. Like I've had one once my whole life. Right. And so he loved making quince jam. I have had a jar of his quince jam, so I know it exists, right? Like I know he's not making this story up. So he would always go like in the early fall to, and this happened last fall. He would go over to his neighbor's house and say, hey, I've got a bunch of apples from my backyard. I want to trade for your quince. And they would just do a straight swap. Right. And so we went over to his neighbor's house and, he had a basket of apples for him. And he was like, hey, I just, came to pick. And the neighbor was like, what do you mean? What quince tree? And he was like, the one in your backyard that every time. And he's like, we have an apple tree that's been here that my grandmother planted when she built this house. And he's like, that's not correct. So he goes out in the backyard. The quince tree is not there. It is now this full grown, like beautiful apple tree, to the point to where my friend is like, this isn't right. Like he's talking to the guy whose house it is. And he's like, and they're next door neighbors. So they see each other all the time.
And there's a tree.
Right. So he's telling him the story of the quince. And as he's telling it, the guy's like, that's weird, because as you're saying it, like, I feel like I remember seeing those now as a kid. And I remember my grandma making tarts or something like that. But it was almost like it was a dream, like this fogginess. And so he was like, I don't know why that's happening. That's really bizarre. And he was like, but I believe you. And then he showed him pictures of like, look, this is what I made last year. And as soon as he saw the jar, he was like, I remember you bringing me a couple jars. And Peter was like, my friend was like, yeah, I just said his name.
Wow.
Oh, well. But it was a weird experience because the neighbor started to remember it, but they couldn't explain the tree. Very weird. So I think that there's things like that. I've had experiences where I know I told somebody some information and it was corroborated by several people. And then that person later was like, we never had this conversation. And then other people were like, we never had that conversation. And I'm like, oh no, we all had this conversation. We were all in a group out to dinner. Like y'all don't remember that. And so I do think that there's parallel lives that can be led. And I think that maybe based on certain, and again, I'm not a guru, I'm not a scientist, I can't prove or disprove this. But I think there's something to it, right? Like if we could make a choice to go down this path, or maybe we lose a loved one on one path, but not on another. Like the Mandela effect, I think, is real, but I think it's something we can't explain. Maybe you go through trauma and it's so jarring, it knocks you into another timeline or another, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I certainly believe in it.
Explain the Mandela effect, please.
So the Mandela effect is where you might remember history or an event differently. So basically what I just described with the quince tree and the apple
Mhm,
tree, that's
mhm.
considered an experience of the Mandela effect, where you concretely remember something being a certain way and may even have proof of it, but that's not what reality is now. It might have been reality a year ago, 2 years ago, what have you, but that's not the case now. So,
Interesting.
mhm. It
Really?
also makes me wonder too, like, do we jump timelines several times throughout our lives? So that's where like maybe we remember our childhood differently from reality, or we remember our teenage years different from reality, right? Like, who's to say we don't jump timelines multiple times in a life? I mean, I could go on a tangent about all that stuff too. But yeah, I definitely believe in the Mandela effect. I believe that there's the ability to move through parallel lives, but I don't know if I don't think we do it consciously. But I also don't know if it's something where, we go through a trauma and it kicks us onto another timeline, maybe based on our choices and decisions we make. It leads us to a different path. I don't know, but it's a wild thought.
It is a wild thought. And something happened the other day. It was so odd. My neighbor was over here, and um, the flange under the garage door, the
Mhm.
rubber thing,
Yeah.
mine had come loose. And I said, "Can you fix that for me?" And he said, "Yeah, but he had to get, I think, molly screws or something like that." And I see him frequently kind of helping me out. And then I went and looked at my garage door, and it was all fixed. And I thought, did I imagine that it was hanging? And then I said something to him, and he goes, "Yeah, you were watching me repair it." And I'm thinking, I have Alzheimer's because I do not remember standing there watching you repair it. And so he goes, "Yeah, yeah, you were just standing there." So I don't know. I thought I was just losing my marbles, to tell you the truth.
No, no, it's not early onset dementia. You might have had like a timeline jump or something
It was
wacky like that,
weird.
but that is weird.
I mean, wouldn't you know if you're standing there watching a guy repair your garage?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I would.
think.
And I think, well, I haven't been drinking or, anything like
Maybe
that.
you should be. Maybe that's the problem.
I remember that when I was in college, let's say somebody was smoking weed, and then and doing their homework, that when you took a test, you should duplicate that same experience, because that's how you would remember the answers.
Maybe. I never tried that approach, so maybe
Well, yeah,
that's a missed opportunity.
yeah, I don't know about that. Okay, well, that's fascinating. So we'll get back to the numerology. That's really, really interesting. I don't think, no, you pointed me in a different direction for a numerology chart, but that would be fascinating to have done also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
really, they're fun, and the thing is I've never had someone have a numerology chart where they didn't walk away with something that was either really profound, it really answered a question that they had, like,
Mhm.
I'm yet to have that happen. I'm not saying that people are going like, "Oh my God, this was amazing," right? But there are some people that react that way. However, everyone takes away something from a reading just based on our conversation.
Chelsea, is numerology like the astrological chart that people make for you?
Totally different. Could not be
Okay.
more opposite. Yeah. So that's why I was
Oh,
saying, like, astrology really talks about, now the thing is a good astrology chart. So like I think you've interviewed my friend Anna, who's an
yep.
amazing astrologer, and she can tell you things that are going to happen, right? Like, here's what to expect, here's this coming down the
Right.
pipe. To me, astrology is a little more zoomed in, right? Numerology is a little more broader, big picture,
Oh,
in my
great.
opinion. And that's how I do my readings. Now, you can't, like, when I do a reading for numerology, I don't go as in depth with like the pinnacles and with certain life lessons and some big stuff, because at some point you kind of get too in the weeds, and then people kind of glaze over and get overwhelmed. So I just tend to stick with like your basic 7 numbers in your chart, which is your life path, your destiny, your personality number, your soul number, your birthday number, your karmic debt number, and I'm missing one. Soul, personality, birthday
I don't
number.
know.
So that's the thing is you do those 7 numbers, and to me that's like a very basic reading. If people want something
Mhm.
more in depth, then
Mhm.
I can do that, but I tend to find most people get what they're trying to achieve from a basic chart. So that's where I just stick there.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming sometimes.
Right.
And they could always have a more thorough chart or
Oh, for
later on
sure.
if they
Yeah,
desire.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that's cool. So let's do a live on numerology.
Sure.
Let's do that. Okay. So I
I'd love
have
to.
had a lot of people that I've met that this is all new to them, the spirituality, getting signs and the whole bit. Let's talk a little bit about the afterlife and what that may be like and what they could expect. Because some people really hope that there is an afterlife, that they will go someplace. They don't have that, I don't know, it's not concrete evidence, but they don't know what's going to happen to them.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. I think we could all argue that we don't actually know what's going to happen. I think the closest we can get to that is speaking with like near death experience survivors, them being able to say what
Yes.
they've went through or, so I think that's probably the closest that we can get. What I can tell you though is like what I experience as a medium and like how I see spirit, how they come through for me. A lot of people, so like, when I've done readings with you, when I do readings with clients, some people say, well, what do you mean when you say like, I feel this loved one stepping forward, like they're stepping forward, right? And quite literally, I use that terminology because that's exactly what it looks like in my head. So I can't speak for every medium. I'm only speaking from my unique experience and kind of what I witness and sense and feel in a session. And so when I'm meditating prior to the session, I envision kind of like this white staircase that I'm going up. And as I'm going up the staircase, I see like these huge double doors and the double doors swing in this way. And so when I get to the top of the staircase, I can see in and everything around me is white, except for when I look into this room and the room is all completely pitch black, except for it's backlit. So it's this big black abyss room. It's backlit. Okay. And when I see spirit, I will literally, as soon as I walk into the doors, I'll feel like the wind, like kind of come up behind me as the doors are kind of closing me into this room, right? Wow. And I will literally see hundreds of like these little silhouettes. I can't make out. I can just see all these little tiny like bodies because they're really far away.
Seriously?
So then, yes, this is what I see every time I channel, every time.
Wow.
This is kind of how I start. And that's kind of how I know I'm in the right space. That's where I know I'm with spirit. And then at that point in time, I will usually kind of end the meditation, wait for my client to get here because I know that mentally I'm in that space. And then as soon as I sit down with client, I'm kind of taken mentally back to that place. And then I'll see one by one people that start to literally step out from the crowd. Now, when I do a reading, I will usually start with a head count, which I'll sit there and kind of go, okay, that person stepped pretty close. That person's also here. But then the way I see it is I'll see it three-dimensionally where I can see a bunch of people in the background, but then there's people who are really close to me. And then there's some people who are like in between. The people who are in between kind of the masses and then the people who are that I'm going to be communicating with, those are people who are like, hey, we also are interested in talking. If we have time, we're here and we'll just pass along the microphone. But typically the spirits that come the closest to me are the ones that I'm going to communicate with, or I'm at least going to do my best to communicate with. Usually if I'm not able to communicate with them, it's just a timing issue. Like we don't have enough time to talk to them, or, I have a client after or something of that nature. But that's really, so like, that's my experience when I'm just starting to connect to channel is I'll see just dozens and dozens and dozens of silhouettes. And then I'll slowly see them stepping forward. Now, some people will say like, well, so then do you see my loved ones? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I'll be able to see them in my head as clear as I can where I can go short, curly, dark hair. She would have worn glasses, very well put together. Like I can describe them. Other times I will just see a black silhouette. So I could maybe tell they had shorter hair, or I could tell that they were stockier or thinner, but I won't be able to like give you like eye color and it's really truly how spirit presents. I have tried communicating with spirit and saying, why don't you show me what you look like? And they've kind of said it's irrelevant. Like I've just kind of gotten that back in readings where they're like, look, you being able to describe me to a loved one is irrelevant. I find
not to the loved one.
Correct. But that's the thing is that what we also find important in a reading is completely subjective. When I met with no, it's true. When I met with a medium, an amazing one on the East Coast, when I met to connect with one of my loved ones, I wouldn't have cared if she described how they looked, because she knew such specific things about their life. And to me, that's what's important, is being able just to validate. Because I think, you're working really, I mean, technically, you're working with what? 3 hair colors?
Yeah.
Black, red, blonde. You got a 30% shot. And so for me, I want to be an evidential medium that brings up stuff that like nobody could know. Like I can tell you a real funny story about a session I had about a month ago. It's probably the most wild thing I've ever said in a session to date. But that's the thing, is, sometimes I'll see how they look, sometimes I don't. But I find that if describing how the spirit looks is important to that individual, then they will present themselves. If they don't, then that's kind of my indicator that they don't care. They want to just get to the nuts and bolts of the conversation. So that's where I think it really is subjective. Our loved ones on the other side know what our loved ones here want to hear. And so that's what I tell people is like, look, I may not get to everyone, but I'll at least get to the important people. They know what you want to hear, not me. So, but so that's kind of what I initially experienced. Like when I begin to channel is that just kind of that big, vast room that I'm in, just with dozens and dozens, hundreds of little silhouettes that are, they look like, if I had to guess, probably like 50 yards away. Right. And then they kind of start stepping forward, and it's just how it's always been. I didn't ask for that. When I started meditating and learning to channel when I was in 6th grade, that was really kind of what my first experiences were like. And it's just stuck.
That's what I wondered. I wondered if somebody taught that to you, but obviously not. That was something that was shown to you, and that's how you were going to learn. 6th grade.
My mom bought me my first psychic book in 6th grade and was like, here you go. You're weird. Figure out what's wrong with you. And I was like, okay, I'll do that.
Did you have a Ouija board too?
No, I would never touch one. Never have, never will.
Yeah, they're kind of scary, aren't they?
Well, here's the thing is that I think we could argue that any tool could be used for negativity or for connecting with malevolent spirits. So I think anything could be used for that. My thing is with a Ouija board is I think that even though you can bless them and you can bless the space, if something gives me the icks, I listen to it. And those have just always given me the icks. I don't want to be near them. And I'm like, and at the end of the day, when people are like, well, you're a medium, why wouldn't you use one? And I'm like, not to be a jerk or a brat, but I don't need it. Sorry. I don't personally feel like I need it. And there might be some mediums out there who do better with it or give an outstanding reading, and that's totally fine. I personally don't feel like I need that.
I don't think I've interviewed anyone that uses a Ouija board.
I've known some, but it was more in a validation thing. Like they would save it for the end and go, okay, let's ask one question to your loved one or something like that. And it was more of what they did to close the session, which is, it's interesting. Okay. But I think there's other things. I don't know. They give me the icks. I don't want to touch them.
Well, I'm a lot older than you are. And I remember going into a darkened room, probably a bathroom, with my friends and doing the Ouija board. And it just kind of went all over. It never really gave an answer. It's just moving all over. And then we got scared. So we quit doing it.
Yeah. That was probably a good thing. Yeah.
Kind of
no, there's lots of occult things out there that I think can be used for negativity or can be used negatively. It's not for me to decide what is and isn't bad, but I just know, like, if I get the icks or I'm uncomfortable around something, like, I'll be quite honest, I would love more than anything to go into Zach Bagans' museum in Las Vegas with all the haunted artifacts. Like, that would be that's like my Mecca. However, I have enough respect for the occult and for trigger objects like that, that I know something would attach to me. I've had experiences with clients that like horrific, mind-blowing experiences where they went there and their lives completely fell apart. They got sick. I've known people, not personally, but I've had clients who are like, yeah, they came back, found out they had cancer and died. There's a whole Facebook page that is dedicated to people who've went there and had horrible experiences.
Okay. Who is this guy? I've got to check this out.
So Zach Bagans. So
Zach
if you, and I'm trying to remember
Bagans?
what his house is called. But he's the guy who's the lead investigator for Ghost Adventures.
Baggins, Baggins?
No, Bagans.
Bagans. Okay,
Yeah, like
sorry.
Bagans, I think is how he says it. And I actually got to meet him in December. That was kind of a crazy experience, but
What was that like?
it was me fangirling and hyperventilating. So it was really not worth mentioning at all. It's not where we can just gloss right over it. I was just going to drop that there that I got to meet him. We'll leave out the details.
Were you starstruck, Chelsea?
Oh, you have no idea. Yeah. So it took everything in me to.
But don't you think you're full of light and love that you could go in that museum and not get attached to?
I don't want to take that risk. I know I'm full of light and love, but what you have to keep in mind too is that the dark, evil, they like to corrupt. They like to attach. So even if I went in there with all the light and love and sage in the world, there's still going to be stuff that tries to follow me home and make my life miserable. Because think about it, right? Someone like me that is helping spirit, it's almost like a bigger trophy for one of those negative entities to break. So I ain't messing with that. I've jokingly told people if I found out I had terminal cancer, then I'll absolutely go because I already know I'm toast, right? And I don't care what follows me home, right? So yeah, if I find out I have some kind of terminal illness, like then yes, absolutely, I'll go visit the museum.
Well, who was that guy? It was recently. He was traveling around with that doll,
the Annabelle doll. Yeah.
And
so that's got a lot of energy to it. My brother, before it was given or Zach Bagans acquired it, and now actually no, now Matt Rife I think has it. I'm not sure. But no, it used to be, if it's what I'm thinking of, it used to be in Southern Florida and you could go visit it there. I might be thinking of a wrong doll. There's a lot of haunted dolls out there. But yeah, Annabelle is one where you're not supposed to talk negatively to it. You're supposed to be really respectful. You know, the thing is I absolutely believe that objects of any kind can have energy and can hold it, right? You know, because everything's energy, right? This wood table next to me, it's energy. It's just very slow moving energy, right? Yep. Which means that, I've lived in houses that were haunted, but not with like spirit ghosty haunting, but like had imprints of negative energy because there was a lot of fighting or there was toxic relationships or stuff that went down. Like houses, objects can absolutely hold on to negative energy. It's a thing. So
I'm glad I sage.
You should be. I do it fairly regularly. So yeah, it's a good thing.
But people come in my house and tell me the energy feels really good. Yeah. So I think I'm safe.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. You know, I would say 20 years ago, I would want to go in that museum. But after talking to you now, there's no way I'd want to go in there.
No. Like, he has Jack Kevorkian's van. Like, he has such cool object. Like the one for me that I would fangirl out is the Dybbuk box, because that thing has, it's got so many interesting things. And there's, been paranormal shows where they've done investigations over the Dybbuk box and talked about people's encounters, and it's super fascinating. That would probably be the object I'd want to see the most there. But there's a ton of stuff in general that he has. But I won't go unless I have a terminal illness and I know that I'm toast.
Okay. Well, if you go, then I know what's happening with you. So
exactly. So if people see pictures, they're like, she's got 90 days.
Well, make it quick. If you're gonna go, just make it quick if it's terminal.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Make me discover it at the very end so I don't have to suffer.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. I think that is so cool that you enter that room and there they are waiting for you.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I like talking to other mediums and seeing what their experience is. Cause some people are like, no, I don't step into a room. I'll just all of a sudden get an awareness of an individual. And that's fine. I think everyone channels differently. Everyone receives information differently, but that's my experience. That's literally what I see every single time before a session and then leading into the session. And then once I start channeling and like actually going into it, then I don't typically see the room as much, except for then almost like when I'm concluding with one person, getting ready to switch, it's almost like I get pulled back into the lobby grab who I need to talk to and then go, kind of focus more on them. But yeah, it's interesting.
That's very cool. I think that's really interesting. I think I would like to have something like that. You do transmediumship too, don't you?
I did it for my book, but I have not, I don't actively pursue it. I don't advertise that I do it because I'll be real, losing out on like an hour or two of your life and you have no recollection of it, it's pretty jarring actually. So I realize that some people may be comfortable with that. That's just not something I'm comfortable with personally, but yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. I always record because I don't remember. I'm just a baby in this and I record because I don't remember what I say.
Yeah.
But I like it because you feel that love. You're sitting in love. Just pure love.
You can do it without trance mediumship. You don't have to be in a trance to feel that. But I would agree. I would agree. That was really how I got through some people's passings in my life was turning around and then channeling for others. It turned around and healed me, so it was kind of an interesting experience.
I like that though, when it comes up when you least expect it and you just feel that expansion and that you're connected to everything and you feel all that love and it's oh my
and that is exactly what crossing over feels like. Like for me,
are you kidding?
That's exactly what it is. We're basically welcomed into this awesome space of just love and joy and bliss and healing and all of that good stuff. I've had people say like, what's heaven like? And it was really funny. I didn't know how to articulate it. And
did you have
I saw,
Did you have an NDE?
No, I have not. Okay. I've had times where I should have died, but I didn't like cross over and come back. Okay. But spirit will take me through their journey and kind of show me what the other side looks like. And it was so funny because I'd taken my kids to the movie theater and we went and saw the movie Coco. And I don't know if you know or have seen that movie, but it's a Disney cartoon about this little boy who ends up being able to cross over onto the other side because he's trying to help a family member. Okay. And so it's like his mission of like, he's trying to get back to the real world, back to the other side. Okay. So here's what's interesting is there's this one scene in the movie where you come into it and you just kind of saw like all of these like huge like hills and stuff. And there's all these like little like stuff all over it. And it like, in this case, it was buildings and houses and things like that. And it was just infinite. And that's how it looks to me. Although I don't feel that we have like a house on the other side that we go live in or sleep in or things like that. But it was just interesting because I do feel that we can go and do things and we can, like I remember when my grandpa came to me right after he had passed and he woke me up in the middle of the night at the time he passed. And so he was, it was really interesting. He was a big golfer. And so where he was at is we were in this big golf course and I could just see rolling fields of beautiful green golf course in the background. I just remember there was one little single tree off to the right and I could still see it clear as day. And he was standing there and he was kind of like, he had one of his golf clubs there and then he kind of picked it up and did kind of like this little funky, like little swing with it, like he was all cool. And then he just kind of like gave me a nod and then he turned around and just walked away and he didn't say anything. It was just his way of letting me know he made it. And he was a big golfer, like played a couple times, 3 times a week. Like he was super avid golfer, belonged to a few golf clubs, traveled just to golf. Like he was that into it, him and my uncle. And so anyway, so it was totally crazy to see him in that moment. And then my mom called me about 10 minutes later. And let Grandpa died. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I knew you would know.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's so peaceful. That is just beautiful and peaceful.
Yeah. And so heaven to me from what people is heaven is what you find heavenly. If you love beaches, you're going to be on a beach. If you love the mountains, you're going to be mountainside. Right. So it like my experience has been, and that's what's crazy is
I agree.
I'll have clients say, well, where is my loved one? Where are they at? And I'm like, well, where did they stay? Like they come and they travel family, but they're like, but no, like when they're on the other side, like, what do they go see? What do they do? And I'll be able to say like, look, I'm confident and feel like this person was into hunting or fishing because they're literally showing me like them camped up by a creek and they'll go, yep, that was their big thing. That was what they were. And I'm like, that's their version of heaven. So
hunting in heaven?
I mean, listen, who's to say you can't hunt or fish on the other side?
I guess. Because
So
nothing really dies. So,
exactly.
yeah. Just that's not my version of my heaven, I guess. Yeah.
Right. No, it's not, because I would rather something that involved more shopping and ice cream. But
Oh, God. Ice
but
cream, food of the gods. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
I wonder if Bono will meet me on the beach because I love the coast so much. I don't know.
Well, and if he doesn't, then you guys can at least plan to go there at some point.
Right. Well, I've already asked my spirit guides when I die. I said, you know what? I want to go out into the stars and I want to see all the galaxies and
Yeah.
I want all of that immersion. And then I thought, no, maybe I'll take Bono with me. That would be kind of fun. We'll take Bono and do that. And then before I see my family members, I want my animals in all my lifetimes to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people.
And they will. It'll be like living in a zoo.
I know.
All your animals, all your peeps.
It'll be wonderful. Oh, Chelsea, gosh darn it. We're going to have to end this pretty quick.
I know.
Is there anything else you want to tell us? Because, I want to also ask you this.
Sure.
Because if you watch NDEs on YouTube and stuff, they're all tailored differently. Like some people will go to hell. Some people will see Jesus. Is it due to what they believe in? They're going to see that?
So that's a good question. I think that's one of those ones that I think could also be subjective. So it's not that I'm trying to evade the question, but I really feel like what we envision or what we think it's going to be may end up being that. However, the one thing that I've often wondered specifically about NDEs is that in theory, right? If we're here to learn a lesson, in theory, we would have signed up for this NDE, which means we were never supposed to die in the first place, which means maybe we went to a waiting room and then came back, that we didn't actually cross. We just kind of dipped our toe and then jumped back. It's just a theory I have.
It could have been planned. That's what you're saying. Never thought of it that way. Got to cook on that one.
Yeah, cook on it. Because here's my thing is I think we all are meant to go through experiences, and maybe that NDE is meant to change your life so that then you go around speaking to people and inspiring others who, because maybe that's your path, right? So there's a part of me that's like, do I think NDEs exist? Absolutely. But do I think you were actually meant to die? Maybe not. Maybe it was just the experience that you were supposed to have.
Interesting, Chelsea.
I know. I'm going to leave you with that so that you'll not sleep the rest of the night, and just think about that. You're welcome.
Oh, yes, absolutely. There's this thing called gummies.
Yes, there is.
And it's legal in Oregon.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
God, always a pleasure. Always love talking to you.
Always love to be here. Yeah, let's do, I would love to at some point in time. I love doing live reading. It's one of my favorite things. So it could be numerology. It could be psychic questions. I don't mind doing mediumship. My problem with mediumship though is I can't get to as many, right? Like I feel like numerology, I can go, here's your 2 quick little facts, or here's your little answer, or a psychic reading can answer a quick question and we can move on. That's the only thing with mediumship is I have a hard time doing it quickly. Can we do it both? Like we're going to do a little bit for numerology and then we're going to do the psychic. Yeah, we can do both. Oh, this will be so exciting. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Just tell people to come prepared. For a numerology reading, I would just need to know their birthday. But a psychic reading, they could just ask the question. So yeah, let's do it. And I think everybody knows their birthday. I'm hoping so. All right, Chelsea. Extreme pleasure. Always love having you on. And always glad to be here. Thank you for the invite. In a while, so I'm glad you're here. Okay, we'll talk later. Thank you so much. Thank you. So nice to be here. Until next time. Bye-bye. Bye.